We're here today in Belmont in Dennery, and we're looking at harvesting breadfruit and the post-harvest practices to ensure that the breadfruit is the best standard when it gets to the international markets. So we're with Export Saint Lucia, CARDI, and of course one of our main exporters, Mr. Pierre Moise, on a farm collecting breadfruit. We're basically starting off in the field with the picking or harvesting of breadfruit. And to do this, we want to pick the coolest time of the day, so we come early in the morning or late in the evening. Today, we're lucky it's a very dismal day because of the weather, so it's cool, but ideally, we should be in the field between 6 and 8 a.m. to harvest breadfruit so that we ensure that the heat from the temperature of the sunlight doesn't affect the ripening of the fruit. Procedure typically is we have pickers who climb the trees and they use a cali to cut the breadfruit from the stems on the trees, and that is thrown to another person in the field who catches it in a sack. And it is very important that we do not make this breadfruit touch the ground. So the person who is catching it must be able to catch well and have a sack that holds this breadfruit safely. From there, it should ideally be drained in the field so that the latex drains out. Very important to let the latex drain, so when you pick them in the field, you should have the stems pointing downwards. Ideally, if you have a crate or a box or a container that you can place them in the field, that would be spectacular. We don't want to have them touching the ground. So an improvised method of doing this here in Saint Lucia and in most of the Caribbean, we use banana leaves. So you place the banana leaves on the ground and then you drain the breadfruit on it so that the latex drips down to the leaf or the soil and not on the fruit. If you have facilities, you can also pull a container into play or a barrel that has cool water in it, room temperature, or something that is 16 degrees Celsius or a little bit less, but definitely not lower than 12 degrees, and this helps to cool the breadfruit from field heat, which induces ripening. But again, today for the example that we're doing, it's a very cool day, so we don't necessarily need to use that. And of course, in picking the breadfruit, you would have spotters and persons who are accustomed to identifying mature breadfruit based on the color. Usually it's a lighter green. The segmented circles and shapes on the breadfruit are usually larger, and also there's less latex when you cut it from the stem. This is how you identify a mature breadfruit, and of course our farmers in Saint Lucia and in the Caribbean would be accustomed to identifying this from cultural practices and historical practices.
Bonjour tout le monde, moi c'est Jacob Thomas, moi c'est supervisor sur field station CARDI. So they are now Belmont, CARDI comment nous va tuer boire manière supposée fait. Là où il y a un monde qui a monté pierre et puis un cali et puis on a resté à terre qui laisse là pour tuer parce que monde là terre a ça qui primaturité. So il a tué, il a point, il a voué à terre pour l'autre et puis qui est un sac. Moun sa à terre ni un sac dans la main, moun sa ni pour ça parer bien. So là il parer, yo ka mettre à terre sous feuille, ça met prend feuille figue mettre à sous et puis mettre tête li ka garder à terre sur la lettre là qui couler, pas que rester en bas bois péan. Et puis il apporte l'air ou ka tuer bois péan parce il bon pour tuer bon matin au tard après-midi parce sous tuer le soleil là chaud il ka fait pour mi plus vite et puis le temps arrivé là il aller avec mi so nous besoin pour tuer bon matin au tard après-midi et puis là ça ou ça ni on bagaille glo qui about 15-13 degrés pour ça soquer là il pas supposé plus bas que 12 degrés mais pour aujourd'hui l'applicateur est en fouet nous pas besoin ça aujourd'hui.
So here we have breadfruit that is just freshly picked, and they are positioned in a way that the latex is draining off of the breadfruit. So they're draining from the stems, which are pointing away from where you have the breadfruit laid out. And we know the breadfruit is ready for harvest because the segments on the breadfruit are larger in shape, size. It's also a lighter color green with a tint of yellow coming through, and the latex is less than a very young breadfruit. So again, ideally, we should have a container or a box or a crate to place them in the field, but we improvise. We use the banana leaves so it's not touching the direct ground. So this is a method that can be used, but ideally it should be in a crate, a box, a container, or something that has it completely off of the ground, even a pallet.
Ça nous regarder la prison, on est bois là qui tue fouet. Là on mettait à terre ni pour l'état ni pour couler hot bois pierre, pas ni pour couler bois pierre. So nous tivons donner either crate avec sac ou bien palette pour mettre là, mais aujourd'hui nous on servi feuille banane pour feuille pour ça ouais. Depuis bois pierre pas qu'à toucher terre, il bon. So ça servi en feuille sur mais sur une crate, sur une palette, c'est primaire bagage là où ça mettait à soi. Et puis à ce bois pierre ou quand les maturités ni anti marquage là qui a grandi. Là il a maturité qui a grandi, so quand il léger vert la souille. So ça c'est une manière nous supposé faire.
Over here we have examples of things you should not do. So you have breadfruit that has damage in it from bruises when it was picked or on the tree itself, these brown spots. You don't want to include this in your export sample because these types of damage will end up with you having breadfruit that is spoiled and rotten by the time it gets to the destination. This is another black brown spot that indicates there's damage to the breadfruit. You don't want to include that either. And here on the banana leaf, they're sitting in the latex. You see on the banana leaf, all the latex is there and the breadfruit is resting in it. You don't want that either. Also, you must leave piece of the stem on. So this breadfruit has no stem. It should be excluded from your sample for export.
Nous c'est ça qui pas ça exporter c'est bois ça là. Quand on voit yo ni marque sur miel modé yo, on va voir ça là, on va voir l'autre là, qui ni marque miel modé à souille et puis ça là même ni un gros tache noir à souille et puis on passe à exporter ça et puis yo ka assiser lettre bois pierre même ça pas bon pour yo. Et puis mais nous ni l'autre exemple, ça supposé ni morceau tête là à souille, ça pas ni pièce. So ça c'est non nous pas ça exporter bois pierre comme ça.
Okay, so we're at the packing process for post-harvest of breadfruit, where we're looking at the different gradations, the large, the medium, the small, and that would depend on your market and what they require. For this particular market right now, there is no preference. So the size can be small, medium, or large, and we classify them as good and bad based on damage from the scarring, the bruising, the spots from when they would have fallen, and the presence or absence of stems. So over here we have 3 good breadfruits. Good in the sense that there's no damage on the skin compared to the bad one, where you have brown blotches, bruises, no stems. And you don't want to put these for your export market. You can sell them locally, but not for your export market, because if you pack them with the good ones, they will speed up the ripening, and when the good ones get to the destination, they can be rotten or spoiling because they will be overripe. So we take the good breadfruit and you place it in the basin with water. You want to wash any soil or matter that would have been on the fruit off to get it as clean as possible, including latex. And you also want to cut the stem from the fruit. It should be about 3/4 of an inch stem on it, or 1.5 centimeters. So we're gonna cut this off, drain the latex down, give it another dip. You want to get as much latex off of the fruit as possible. If you have a soft sponge, you can even just gently scrub some of that latex off. And then you place it to drain the latex down. And you just leave that to dry. Okay? So we would do that for all. And then as it is dry, we would then take some tissue or a soft cloth to completely ensure it's fully dried, bag it and pack into the box. So the breadfruit has been washed, the stem has been trimmed, it has been sorted, and we're letting it drain. The latex is draining out, and the water that we would have washed it with is also draining. So we just want to make sure it's completely dry. So a soft cloth or paper tissues, and blot dry it. Do the latex coming from the stem last, and you let it air dry for a little bit longer, maybe about 15 to 20 minutes, after which you would then bag it and pack it into the box. We place the stem down in the bag, because if any more latex continues to drain, we don't want it draining on the fruit itself. That's gonna prevent the skin from looking pretty and marketable. So you have it at the bottom, you don't tie your bag, and then in your box, you pack it stem down again. So that's one. And you would place the other one there and continue until it's filled. So this box can take 2 for about 6 breadfruit of this size. Ideally, if you're going to stack on top, you have to position it again so that it's not likely to bruise or damage the other fruit that it's touching, and the latex isn't gonna cause any mess. So we will show you that when the box is complete. So when we're packing the breadfruit, ideally we should have a waxed box. That is the best box to pack the breadfruit in, to ensure that there's no post-harvest issues developing. But we don't have that, so again we have to improvise. Now this box, as you can see, is fully packed with 6 breadfruits. If we can go in on top of this and place another layer, stem down as well on top, we're gonna see that the size of the box is not the most suitable. The breadfruits vary in size, so it's not that we had a box of small breadfruits or medium size or large, they're all mixed. Again, because the market doesn't require, this particular market doesn't require a specific size or weight. So looking at this as is, we put another 2 there, you can see that in shipping, these things can bounce. When they bounce, they hit on each other in containers and in transportation, and that can cause a damage to the fruit, which can induce ripening again and end up with a situation where you have ripening or rottening breadfruits on arrival at the destination. So we want to take these out, and because of the constrictions and confinements of the type of box, we would only recommend 1 layer, unless there was a piece of cardboard material that we could place right here flat on top of these, and then place the breadfruit on top in the same pattern with the stems facing downwards. If we had a compartmentalized box with cardboard between each breadfruit, that would even be more ideal. What we definitely should not be doing is turning these breadfruits any direction in the box to force fill it, because when you do that, the stems aren't draining downwards. Yes, it can take more if you do it this way, but your end result may be that you have a loss, because your market won't want damaged, rotten, ripening or bruised breadfruit. See, it fits that way, but it's not the most ideal, again, because they will bounce, hit and collide on each other, and the drainage is no longer straight down, but instead sideways, so the latex is messing up your skin, which makes it not look attractive at the destination for the market.
Ouais, nous là encore, là nous ka séparer ces fruits, ça qui bon et puis ça qui pas bon. On va c'est ça, nous ni toi là qui bon, et puis nous c'est ça qui pas bon. On va ça là utiliser Tommy, il a regardé jaune, pas bon. Et puis l'autre là, nous il pas ni tête. Et puis il a la miel mordé. So, là c'est ça qui est bon au rapport. On va mettre dans le top qui est l'eau, on va laver bien, make sure il n'y a pas de pièces terre à souiller et puis let boire à souiller. So, on va laver bien, là on finit, ton couteau, tête ça on est pour about 3-4 pouces long. So, on va juger about 3-4 pouces couper. On va mettre en l'eau, on va laver, make sure toute lettre la sortie dedans, tout bagage, et puis là on finit, on va mettre à ce côté pour ça, couler l'eau et puis lettre là. So là il coule l'eau, il chasse, on va prendre un morceau de toile qui est molle, on va pampaye, on va faire une chasse, puis chasse tête là, et que tu as une pièce, lettre qui a coulé, pièce de l'eau, on va finir, on va mettre pour 5 minutes encore, 10 minutes, on va prendre toile là, on va faire même bagaille là encore, on va make sure bien chasse, sec, et puis là on finit là. Après ça, on va prendre nylon ça là, on va mettre tête là pour regarder en bas. On va mettre tête là en bas nylon là. On va mettre nylon là, on finit, on va prendre, on va mettre en boîte là comme ça. Et puis bâcler, et puis pour couvrir, et puis pour ça. Là on va pas fouiller, on est pour bâcler tête là à terre. Et puis on need to make sure it be there. Si according to conseil, il pense si c'est 6, si c'est 7. Mais la première manière pour ça partir pour ça, c'est un sel en bordaille. Sur les bails plis, vous pouvez mettre un cardboard en mi-temps, mettez un à souille et puis mettez les autres dans l'œil. Non, sous garder ça en appellation. Non, pensez les autres ça, mais mettez à sous, c'est ça money en bas pour que votre tête va faire un jack à monter votre boîte là. So vous pouvez vous en plus gros boîte et puis vous pouvez vous 4 boîtes à mi-temps. Si c'est pas sûr ça, là ouais, pour mettre comme ça, n'importe manière, là ouais, boîte là, mouvement boîte là à faire, c'est pour prendre qui a fauté à sur l'autre et puis ça qui bah yo tout qualité brousse, tout temps il arrive là il déjà commencé à mi. So manière ça c'est pas bonne manière pour ça pas boire.
Transportation is another key aspect of this process. From the field to the area that it is being packed, you want to move quickly because you don't want large time lags to happen where there's exposure to heat and then you have the possibility of your breadfruit spoiling or starting to ripen faster, leading to spoiling. So you move as quickly as you can straight from the field to the area that you're going to sort, clean up, wash, trim the stems, pack. And then from the packing site to the port where you're shipping it off to your destination, you also want to schedule the entire process so that it happens very quickly, if possible the same day. If not, you should ensure that you have them stored in a well-ventilated, cool area. If you're using a temperature-controlled setting, you would want to ensure that 16 degrees Celsius is your temperature so that ripening is not hastened in the entire process. And then you get it off, shipped to your destination and wait for the good feedback from your buyers.
Quand on dit plus bonheur, pour appeler c'est un bagage qui est pour tuer bien bonheur tard après-midi. Sur le tuer boire PA sous PA pour venir par comme ça n'est pour faire vitement. Si c'est pas ça, si pour soleil qui chaud et qui gâté, pourtant il qui mis sur pourtant ça là hot PA pour venir sur par comme ça nous pour faire vitement et puis après pour pacler en boîte là, il pour faire même bagage là. Vitement pour là on va mettre à sous poids avec pour ça quitter pays là. Sous ni en côté à ce poids qui ouvre vent ça passer, on va quitter là si c'est pas ça ou ni en côté qui a fait fouette ici un conteneur qui a chill sur qui about conteneur ça qui about 16 degrés qui pas supposé plus bas passer 16 degrés si plus bas que ça qui est gâté et puis qui est mis.
Export Saint Lucia has been actively promoting the Saint Lucian breadfruit in popular markets such as the United States and the United Kingdom for many years. Currently, the Saint Lucian breadfruit is regarded as one of the best globally and quickly taken off the shelves in places such as New York. Nonetheless, it is essential that we not only maintain this quality but improve upon it. To do this, Export Saint Lucia has partnered with the Caribbean Agricultural Research and Development Institute, CARDI, to develop guidelines that can be used uniformly by our exporters to generate a similar quality across the board. Additionally, Export Saint Lucia will use these guidelines as the entry requirement for using the Taste of Saint Lucia brand for the marketing and promotion of breadfruit. The Taste of Saint Lucia export label aims to create an identity that captures the essence of this vibrant island, differentiates it from the competition, and appeals to domestic and international markets. It initially covers 3 sectors: food, beverages, and well-being, emphasizing the natural, pure origin of the products. By promoting high-quality products, the Taste of Saint Lucia will capture even more market share, which will create more opportunities for exporters.